Rolling through the sand like a thought in disguise. The scarab spins truth where the cosmos collide. Energy whispers, it never says goodbye. The Beatles crawl, the Beatles rise.
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
Sort of burst the chaos, yet the chaos rise. My name Beatles, 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 over and over, spinning the world in the grip of their shoulders. Beatles, 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 under and over, rolling through time till the blackness is sober. The heat fades lower, the order begins. The stillness so perfect, it hums from within. The void sings softly, entropy takes a bow. In the shadow of silence, the scarab knows how. The second law is dancing, feeding life through decay. The third law holds the promise that the stillness will stay. Time till the blackness is sober.
Go to American, share the video, hit the like, subscribe, Cash App, Super Chat, AmericanHealer.website, Amazon.
Okay, hold up. Hey yo, check this out. Listen, hey yo. Not on your life. Not on your life. I was just checking this. The mic was working. That's all I was doing, was checking to see if the mic was working. Yeah, did me a little pre-pray, little something. All right. All right, so peace to the family. What we got going on? What is happening to my little menu? Is like weird as hell right now. Oh, here we go. All right. Y'all remember this?
Me feed you. Say let me feed you. Don't grab me if you. Me feed you. Say let me feed you. Don't grab me if you grab me.
What's going on, family? So listen, here's the reality. There's no possible way that we could do a crash course. Now, mind you, this is not even all of the books. This is just some of the books, right? And this is not, I'm not talking about that's on Amazon. I mean, just of this one series. Okay. So I only have up to like 17 or 18 of the books. I don't even have all of the books. So it's not possible to just do like a whole one afternoon crash course on this much. Like this is, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of information, right? But here's what we can do. Here's what we can do. What we can do is continue to work our way through the original text, right? And at the same time, we can somebody said, why do I only wear shades now on the video? Because I receive so much shade. I receive so much shade. Is villain mode activated. Villain mode activated. No, but we can go through this, right? But what I'll do is I think we should look directly at the code itself, right? So here's how the books work. Here's how the books work, right? We start with the text, the main book, and then from here we go out and we expand in each space gradually, right? We expand in each space gradually. And what I mean is solution wise, right? Which exercise, diet, metabolic disease training, food as medicine, right? These are two concepts that over the next decade is going to be promoted throughout academia. It's going to be promoted throughout the establishment, globally, right? This is a global initiative. Anybody outside of that is going to be pushed out. Okay, so Western academia has made their moves, right? What they're going to do is once again attempt to embrace naturopathy, right? So they're going to attempt to embrace it. So that means it's going to absorb the holistic community, which has already happened on YouTube in the past 3 to 5 years. The algorithm has been completely absorbed into mainstream slots, so that when you go to health information on YouTube, you get some sort of teacher from Stanford, doctor of Harvard. You get that as opposed to Dr. Africa, Dr. EnQi, Dr. Sabi, or whatever the case may be. So it's going to get, you know, it's going to continue down that lane.
Me feed you. Say, let me feed you. Don't grab me. If you grab me, I'm going to bite you. I swear to God, if you...
Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness melodic and passive. Uzi made sadness feel floating in magic.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll go to the code directly, right? Because there's a lot of information in the first book, but as we go through the different pathways of solutions, we start to refer back to the origin of the human body as a blueprint, and we get back to like, okay, originally we understand in the 1960s the discovery that changed the world to some extent, figuring out the 64 codons and the DNA code in that regard. Sir, please, I'm on my live stream. Thank you. Can you close my door back? Thank you. And move away from my door with that conversation. Thank you. The discovery that changed the world to some extent in the 60s was discovering the 64 codon code of the DNA. I am on my live, sir. What are you doing?
Check your phone.
Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness melodic and passive. Uzi made sadness feel floating in magic. Big songs don't hit cause they lyrical only. They hit cause the brain get lonely. Simple hooks loop to the nervous system, know it. Ghosted the body singing for the mouth notice. That's dopamine science, electrical timing. Prediction and reward, the whole brain chiming. Every replay deep in pathways inside them. Now the song becomes your identity wiring. Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness melodic and passive. Uzi made sadness feel floating in magic. The greatest hooks are fun drivers. They compressed emotions down to one-liners. The body love patterns and repeated fixtures. That's why crowds scream songs back like scriptures. DJ, electric grills. My favorite song give me chills. In my skin, it mean I'm lit. For the song, it mean a hit. Also, I'm noticing God made dopamine. So I'm high, cause I'm focusing. Music is God and the go-between. A sentence is repentance. A verse to get your soul redeemed. The body hit a baseline first. Pain make the whole song work. Look the feeling till it hurt. That's why the whole world replay the verse. Heartbeat move with the drums. Nervous system go numb. Music ain't sound where I'm from. It's electrical waves through the lungs. Bass to the rib cage, chest start shaking. Low frequencies literally move sensation. Heart sync rhythm through entrainment. Now the whole crowd breathing in synchronization. That's why arenas cross the spiritual fine line. 10,000 nervous systems on one timeline. One hook, one tempo, one guide. Music turns separate bodies to one hive. The best songs leave room in the production space. Let the listener emotionally function. Too many sounds create mental disruption, but emptiness let imagination touch it. Reverb make memories more like tuning. Vocal signatures, emotions are human. Distortion make the pain feel vivid. Imperfection make the nervous system livid. Cause the body detect life through texture, not robotic perfection and pressure. Breath, sound, strain, slurs and gesture. Architect, music, measure, pleasure forever. DJ, electric grills. My favorite song give me chills. In my skin, it mean I'm lit. For the song, it mean a hit. Also, I'm noticing God made dopamine. So I'm high, cause I'm focusing. Music is God in a go-between a sentence.
All right, so I didn't mean to bombard y'all with the music that fast. I did not mean to do that. That was totally unsportsmanlike of me. That was totally unsportsmanlike of me. I did not mean to bombard you that soon with the music. I need streams, but those don't count for streams, right? So play it just so y'all know. Like playing the video here on YouTube doesn't give me streams. So don't think that I play the videos for streams or whatever. Yeah, that was a dad moment. Like Chase busting up in here, like the house is on fire because he got an emergency party he want to go to. Like, bro, how is you busting into my live stream for emergency? I got an emergency party. Yeah, I got an emergency party I need to go to. Like, nah, bro, come on, man. You got an emergency party, bro. It's crazy. Nah, that's because I want y'all to be able to sing with me. You supposed to be singing that song right there. That's supposed to be crowd participation. Y'all supposed to be singing that song. So right now, as I'm yelling, or not really yelling, but venting, semi-venting about my man Chase busting in the door and all that for his emergency party pop-up, it was the children who actually gave me that idea to post the lyrics. You know what I'm saying? Because I see lyrics as a big thing. I didn't know that iTunes or Apple Music gives you lyrics. Apple Music gives you lyrics, I think. And I think Spotify requests me to give them lyrics through the distribution channel, something to that effect. But I think Apple Music just automatically does it. I think I might have to pay Spotify to do it or something to that effect. I'm not sure exactly, but I realized it was a big thing. So that's a fun song. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted people to be able to participate. Yeah. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Definitely appreciate you. I wanted y'all to be able to join in the fun. All right, so here's what I was going to do. This is what I was saying, I think, before I was rudely interrupted, right? I was saying something about the discovery that changed the world, right? 1960, 61, 62, 63, right in that pocket. That's the same time where they're finalizing the idea of what the electron transport chain is going to be. So it's just funny that that's the window, right? That's in the same space of time. That's where research is at. And so they get the 64 codes. And so that's the thing, right? We figured out the DNA. Very quickly, scientists figured out that they had not figured out DNA. And, you know, now even more questions presented themselves because of the discovery of the 64 codes. And one of the questions has not been answered since, right? Even with junk DNA being discovered to be like the most important part of DNA, right? And, you know, atheists, and that's something right there that atheists are supposed to take a large L on, and they haven't really taken that L, right? They haven't really taken that L. I think the Bible people are a little bit too gracious. They haven't really taken that L. Like, that's something that right there was back in the days. That was one of the main parts of the atheist argument, was that if we look at DNA, most of the DNA is mistakes. So the mistakes in the DNA proves that Charles Darwin's theory is correct and there's no such thing as God and blah, 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 blah. So for decades, Darwin's theory of atheism and all that was substantiated by the fact that most of the DNA is junk DNA. The world hasn't made a formal take back of that, even though they now know that what was thought to be junk DNA at one time is now the most important part of the DNA. It's the part of the DNA that regulates the other parts, right? And when I say the other parts, I'm talking about the protein coding parts, right? But the entire scam has to be pulled back. It's a scam. It's one whole scam. It's a whole scam, like scam, right? Even when you hear humans and chimpanzees got 99% DNA and all that's fake. All of that's fake. We share 99% of 3% of our DNA, right? The other 97% is different, right? So we have different, the rest of our DNA is totally different. The 3% of our DNA that makes proteins, that uses the 64 code, 64 codon code to make our proteins, that's only 3% of our whole DNA. Of that small segment, we shared like 90% or 97% with chimpanzees, 92% with worms or whatever. But that's only the small segment of our entire DNA. The other 97%, they said, was junk. So obviously, it was the really important parts of us that we shared with chimpanzees, that we shared with worms, blah, blah, blah. Now, once we find out that little tiny part is actually way less important than we thought, and the vast majority of our DNA is not junk DNA, the vast majority of our DNA is actually active and controlling the protein part, they were supposed to take back all those statements, but they never took back any of those statements, right? But now we know that AI, which uses 6 codes that are interwoven with each other to produce its form of intelligence or, processing and response, is basically mirroring the 6 codes that we have that we've discovered so far that humans run on. So from that time period in the 1960s, we've discovered more codes that the human body uses to sustain itself. So it's not just the 64 codes. It's right now it's 6 different codes that are interwoven to produce who you are and your consciousness and all your movements and whatever else. All of the stuff that makes up you, right? 6 different codes, right? The thing is, the original question from the 60s was never answered. The 1960s, the original question was never answered. Where's the code coming from? Where's the code coming from? See, that right there, atheists thought they had a leg to stand on with that. But they don't, because there's no proof in the universe, rather, anywhere of like a code ever being created by an unintelligent source. So that's another like dead end, right? Let alone the fact that these are 6 different codes operating in tandem to synthesize into another. Like, it's too much. It's not possible. So once we move past that, which science has, right? Which is the whole reason why everything is about peptides now. And so we kind of have to have a deeper peptide conversation, slowly but surely. We're going to have to, so yeah, we'll have to have much more peptide conversations, because peptide is the future of modern medicine, for better or for worse, right? That's where as medicine goes individual, it's going to be individual doses of prescriptions, right? And it's going to be self-administered at home. And you're going to have a health coach that you're going to work with to make sure that you're taking all your prescriptions and all that. So you're not going to deal with the doctor. You're going to have a health coach that you deal with on a weekly basis. You go see a health coach maybe 2 times a week or once a week. And your health coach going to make sure you're eating right, you're on your diet, your exercise, you're taking your prescriptions, all that. You're only going to see your doctor when it's time to up the prescription, lower the prescription, or get a surgery, right? Because the solution to the health crisis is obviously people need more touches, right? They need more touches. Touching your doctor, or your doctor being able to touch you, pause. I know that sounds crazy, but the contact, you coming in contact with your doctor for 15 minutes twice a year is not enough for people to be healthy. 15 minutes twice a year. Most people don't even do that. Most people haven't seen a doctor in years. But even the people that do see a doctor, it's once every 6 months, 15 minutes you go see. I mean, you're in the office, sitting outside in the office for 45 minutes to an hour and all that, but you don't actually see the doctor, but for like 15 minutes. The nurse come in, check your vitals and all. Like, you don't see the doctor to like 10 to 15 minutes. That's it, right? Twice a year maybe. So that's not enough. That's a part of the reason why we have a health crisis. So health coaches are going to come in and fill that spot. That being said, you're going to be responsible to manage all of your hormone care and all of your health needs. That's where peptides are going to come in. Peptides are like medicine's way of micromanaging the body function. And although there's a lot of confusion on the internet, because you got a lot of people saying crazy stuff like peptides are miraculous, or peptides are going to wipe out, like the population. Peptides have already been rolled out. The most famous one is insulin, right? So when people are saying that there's no test been done on peptides to prove if they're safe or effective or not, this thousands and thousands of tests have been done on peptides because people have been using peptides forever already. Insulin is one of the earliest peptides, so earliest successful peptides that they rolled out on people, that people have been already self-managing and self-injecting at home, like regular. It's a regular part of functioning society for people to shoot their insulin wherever they at, and it's cool. People is gonna get, they rolling that out now with those Zembics and Wegovy's and TRTs and all that. Is rolling out. Is rolling out. In 5 or 10 years, that is going to be what medicine looks like. But it's going to be a lot more peptides. It's going to be peptides for all kinds of stuff, mental stuff, this, that, and the other. And I have a lot of concerns about it. We go over some of that stuff in the books, right? We go over some of that stuff in the books. But we definitely have to talk about peptides, right? And the only reason I'm bringing peptides up, though, is because peptides is a part of my initial conversation, right? 1960s DNA, then we get the EnCode project in the early 2000s. The EnCode project, we learned the junk DNA is not junk DNA. It's actually the most important part. It's the regulatory DNA. Right, so we discovered what regulatory DNA is in the early 2005, 2010, maybe that era. And so from there, we learn a lot more about genes, obviously, right? So this is the interesting thing. In the early 2000s, they had certifications available, right? For functional genomics. That's what it was. Functional genomics. They had certifications available for functional genomics that, less than $300, $500, all kinds of stuff like that. And they still might have some out there. You know what I'm saying? They still might have some out there. But that was like the highest price. They had them low, you know what I'm saying? And I'm talking about not the frivolous, there's frivolous stuff on the internet. You can get certifications for $20 on Udemy and all kinds of stuff like that. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about real, and the reason being is because that was the time when it's just coming out. People didn't really know what it was or anything in the early 2000s. So you could sign up for certification for almost nothing, right? Fast forward now, there's places that want 11,000. I've seen one 25,000, and then I've seen a couple that when you go to their website, it says they've been absorbed into a university. So you can't even get the certification by itself. You got to go enroll in whatever college that is. But, whatever college that absorbed those courses, right? Because now, today, it's becoming the standard thing. What I'm trying to tell you is it's only a 20-year window from a seemingly new practice and new way to understand the human body to where we are today. So, A, that field is wide open. B, super wide open. But C, we're making a shift into a new world, and people they're not really understand. You got a lot of people, especially in the holistic space. The Black holistic space is the worst. I'm gonna be honest with you. They're really crippling you. All them Yankees and all these guys, they really hurting you because they trying to pull you backwards. They want you to believe that holistic has to be only herbs. That's not reality, bro. Holistic is not only herbs. That's not real. That's not real. But the thing is part the hustle. Part the hustle is I got to keep selling these $1,000 herb packages and $2,000 herb, $5,000 herb packages, all kinds of foolish stuff that these guys got going on. So they need you to believe that big pharma is against the herbs and that the herbs is the only herbs means holistic. It doesn't. Holistic means whole. That's where it comes from. Whole, total, right? So that's one of the reasons why we wrote the whole long series of Kemetic naturopathy, so that people can understand back in Kemet, which is the foundation, before it goes to Greece and Rome, then Germany, then back to, well, I ain't gonna say back to us, but then it comes to New York. It started though and got to its highest level in Kemet. And so we need to understand that in Kemet, they were employing everything. It was herbs, it was surgery, it was prayer, it was what people would consider magic. It was it was exercise, it was every modality, it was fasting, right? It was every modality was a part of their health program. You know what I'm saying? That's what natural was. That's what that meant. Later on, when you get to the father of poisons and all that kind of stuff, and they start to really make what the early versions of medicine will become, like just pure chemical products, that's where you have to make a distinction between natural stuff but natural just means natural. If you're in a hot springs or something, in a hot tub, that's considered natural. So there are a lot of different things besides herbs that's natural. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, post EnCode, there has been like a huge shift, right? Everything towards personalized medicine, which is a way to tap into for academia, for them to tap into the holistic space, because that's been the mantra in the holistic space, is that the cookie cutter idea of Western academia doesn't work. Everybody needs their own individual. So since that's the mantra, now they're grabbing that from the holistic community and they're taking it, making it theirs, right? The only thing is, as opposed to plants, the backbone of the future going forward is going to be on peptides, right? Smart people will obviously be in some space in the middle, right? Where they use whatever's advantageous, because there's obviously going to be some amazing things that we get from the world of peptides. But if we're not careful, right? I am legend, right? But peptides have the potential to be more dangerous than AI. Like peptides could end the world. Dun, dun, dun. You said debate Unc? His name is not Unc. His name is Unc. You can't call him Unc. See, that's you. It's people like you, Mika. You know what I'm saying? Respectfully. You know what I'm saying? But it's people like you, Mika, is the problem. Okay? People like you that's calling him Unc. His name is Unc. See, when you call him Unc, right? That means that he's a person who believes in the netures. He's a person that understands what the Ankh represents. He's a person that somehow incorporates the Kemetic ideology into his lifestyle. Ankh goes against that. So I permanently removed the name Ankh away from him and, rechristened him. I baptized him again. Ankh, not Ankh. You cannot be anti-Kemetic or anti-God. You cannot be an atheist and have your name is Ankh. Excuse me, that doesn't go together. So when he wants to relinquish his atheist program, then he can get back to being, we can rebaptize him as Ankh. But until then, he's just Ankh. Yeah, he's just Ankh. It's Ankh. Yeah, it's Ankh. It ain't Ankh. It's just Ankh. Yeah, that's all. It's just Ankh. It's just Ankh. You know what I'm saying? Now that right there, we do need a moment to let that breathe. I mean, man.
We feed you. Say, let me feed you. Don't grab me. If you grab me, I'ma bite you. I swear to God, if you
I'm just saying.
me feed you. Say, let me feed you. Don't grab me. If you grab me, I'ma bite you.
That's all. So that you could tell that to Matter of fact, I was over on his page looking for some smoke, you know. Because the song with Unc, like a lot of people ask me about that song, you know, the song that, you know, Unc's song. A lot of people ask me about that song, and it's on iTunes, it's on Apple Music now and Spotify. You know, Unc's song is out. A lot of people ask me about that song. So now the song is available for people to enjoy. So I was trying to go on his page to let him know that the song was available, that he could enjoy it at his earliest leisure. I wanted him to be able to have a little bit of, you know, a little enjoyment as well. All right. All right. So anyway, while this is all happening, right? Because the EnQi project is really getting crazy, kicking up into high gear, what they're unleashing to the public. 2005, 2010, they doing their work, and you know, right around that era is when the discoveries start coming out, right? So at that time, it's the same time, just so happens to be, right? It's not like it's a concerted effort that I'm doing it on purpose or whatever the case may be. It just so happens that this is the time when we're launching the first 40-day fruit fast. So we're just launching the fruit fast. And as I'm doing the lectures back in 2008, 2009, 2010, talking about CRISPR and the EnQi project and all of these things in my lectures at the time. People don't really know what I'm talking, like Unc and them. I'm glad you bring up Unc. He's one of the people. He didn't know what I was talking about back then when I was doing these lectures. Right? Back then, I'm doing these lectures early 2000s, right? Before the information even comes out, 2010, 12, 15. So when I started doing the 40-day fruit fast, we had these little gadgets we was playing with. And then from there, it kind of graduated into really being able to like get an idea of people's basic body metrics and store it and see how the diet and the herbs and the protocols was like really impacting people. You know what I'm saying? And so that began. And so as I started keeping records of improvement and who's doing this, who's losing weight, who's gaining weight, why, what's happening, healing this guy dropped, this PSA numbers went down, this guy A1C went, you know, like I'm keeping track of all this stuff. I'm starting to learn stuff. And so that's where eventually the beginning of the Melanin versus diabetes movement comes from. And eventually that's where we get to where we are today with the spirit code. So now the spirit code begins at Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, right? Genesis chapter 2, verse 7 is where everything begins at. Even though Genesis chapter 2, verse 7 is taken from the fertility clinics in Kemet, right? The walls of the fertility temples back then. For me, right, my first contact with with that concept of, you know, the breath of life to the nose, my first concept of that, my first contact with that is the Bible, right? When I got a little older, it was explained to me that the stuff from the Bible, you know, may have some earlier roots in earlier cultures. And then I started researching for myself and find some stuff out, right? But my first initial contact is the Bible, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. And so for me, that was always a thing that was the most like important in terms of being able to understand at a scientific, in a scientific space. So combining that interest and the root of my curiosity into much of my research, just in general, with the original question from the 60s, right? The original question from the 60s is, okay, cool. Here's the code. We get it. The body runs on the code. Now we find out more stuff. Okay, the body runs on multiple codes. Cool, we get it. But where is the code coming from? Where's the information coming from, right? And so you have no choice but to also go back to the naturopaths, right? What did the naturopaths always say? That the information in the body is coming from the environment. So now what else do you have? You have mainstream Western academia adapting slowly but surely the idea that what? The body is adapting to its environment. The cells are always changing to meet whatever the challenge is in their environment, right? So I'm taking y'all through this. It might seem a little boring, but I'm taking y'all through this so that you understand where we're going and like in the future and how we're transitioning right now, how the government, everything with the Eat Real Food, RFK, like all that's transition. That's happening right now. You're in the middle of it, right? So you seeing this peptide stuff and all that. When you in the world, when you wake up in 5 years and you in the world where everybody's taking injections all day and kids taking injections for their brain and all, like when you in that world, don't like it's gonna be it's like right now we got so many books. It's not possible for me to go back 100 books. I can't go back to Melanin versus Diabetes Part 3. Part 5 and go back into those books. We too far away from there. So for the people not paying attention now, and I'm trying to make it, I mean, like we got the music on Apple Music, Spotify, Dr. Kepper and the Beatles. You know what I'm saying? Go to stream the music. But I'm saying we got the music, like we're reaching out in every way possible. Right? We got the Patreon, we got the music now, we got the podcast out there. We got videos. I'm still trying to get it all together. We got a new website that we're trying to build, put it together, and link all of this stuff. It's a lot of stuff we're trying to do with the new website that we haven't done with AmericanHealer.website. Nothing's wrong with AmericanHealer.website, though. AmericanHealer.website is fine. A couple people panicked and hit like refund because they saw a new website. So they thought something was wrong with the old website. Like nothing's wrong with that website. It's fine. Right? It's just trying to make a new website to update and do some stuff that I couldn't do with the other one, make it like a better, it's time to upgrade. Right. Yeah. But so that's where the spirit code comes from, right? That the trying to get to the source material. Right. Trying to get to the source material and understand the source material. Understanding how this process really works, because I think that's the more important thing. And that's the thing that blocks us from getting into all the other more advanced spaces of health where health is going, because, okay, one of the things that we talk about, or we've talked about quite a bit is, we talked about, glucose being, the word glucose being meaning, sweet wine, like the etymology of the word glucose being wine, and going back to those concepts originating with Osiris and the whole diabetes and Kemet and all of that kind of stuff, and linking that to cancer and just kind of having that conversation and walking it all the way down to Otto Warburg and from, what he figured out with mitochondria, and then moving from Otto Warburg to Thomas Seyfried, and him putting the icing on the cake and really nailing down like some of the finer details. So now it's accepted in science what Kemet was saying back in a different way, but same thing. Cancer is a metabolic disease. It's a respiratory disease. Cancer is not a genetic disease, right? Or at least largely, right? There's a difference between tumors and cancers and some of the little nuanced stuff but overall, what we think of as cancer, it is metabolic in nature. So even science had this idea originally that, you had a faulty gene, which, the faulty gene theory that contribute to the atheist, Charles Darwin, blah, 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 God made mistakes, people got faulty genes, right? So you have a faulty gene, and that faulty gene causes a faulty cell. And then that faulty cell keeps replicating, and then you got a big cancer smart, an army of cancer cells marching all over you. That was proven to be incorrect, or at least partially, mostly incorrect, right? And it's proven now that it is a cellular respiration problem that's causing the vast majority of cancers that we experience. And in fact, chimpanzees serve as more proof because, another dagger in the argument against the atheists is that the chimpanzees don't get cancers like we do. So if we had the same genetic material and they have a worse diet and lifestyle and life expectancy, how is it that we get the cancer at a rate that's way crazier than, like, none of that makes sense, right? To the point where now, like I said, it's much more accepted and understood that cancer is a metabolic disease. Post the work of Thomas Seyfried, actually, he's still doing his thing, right? But post Otto Warburg and some others, Thomas Seyfried really standing on their shoulders. And so the thing is that really highlighted Otto Warburg, Thomas Seyfried. That highlighted, though, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. And again, going back to the walls of Kemet, because it's saying that the breath is responsible for everything. The breath is responsible for everything, right? So now, obviously, there's a time thing. So if you have a cancer, you're not going to just breathe your way out of cancer overnight. Like, that's not going to happen. But what I'm saying is that the breath is responsible for much, much more than we commonly think, right? The breath is the thing that is not only initiating that initial electrical spark, but it's maintaining that spark. And as we understand that power is also information, the source of the spark, the source of the power is the source of the information. That's becoming the various codes. And what we have in the books is our various original articles and research and information and data points. And we're pulling from other articles and reference points, basically proving our point. And then we actually lay out our whole entire code, which is our original synthesis, our complete original, that's our baby, right? But that happens over the course of the books. As you're reading through the books, you start to learn more. And then by the time you get to book number 5 or 6 or something like that, then the code, we start to formulate the actual code part, right? We start to formulate the actual code. And we did it in the language of, the microbiome, right? The reason I did that is because I felt like we had a lot of success with the microbiome. And then, you know how we did the 1, 2, 3, and we did that for like, I don't know, like maybe 20 or 30 books. We would talk about the microbiome, the bacteria that live in you, and then even further, the viruses that live in your body, and then the fungi, right? Which includes yeast and all that kind of stuff. So talk about the whole kit and caboodle of the microorganisms that live in your body. We would say the 1, 2, 3, because it breaks down into 3 major categories: fungi, viruses, or viri. Is it viri? Or viruses? I'm gonna roll with viruses, right? Fungi, viruses, and then bacteria. Bacteria is already plural, right? So yeah, it breaks down into those 3 categories, but we refine even further, right? Because that's what's happening in your body. You're further refining in depth to add complexity on the way out, right? So that's how the body goes. That's how you get the Russian doll, you know, the complexity is going within. So even when you eat food, it starts out as a big complex thing. And what do? You break it down to smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, all the way to just pure atoms. And then you break the atoms down even smaller. You turn hydrogen into electron and protons, right? So you break matter all the way back down into pure energy. Every time you eat something, that's your constant body process. You take matter and you
Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness melodic and passive. Uzi made sadness feel floating in magic. Big songs don't hit cause they lyrical only. They hit cause the brain get lonely. Simple hooks loop to the nervous system, know it. Ghosted the body singing for the mouth notice. That's dopamine science, electrical timing. Prediction and reward, the whole brain chiming. Every replay deep in pathways inside them. Now the song becomes your identity wiring. Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness Uzi made sadness feel floating in magic. The greatest hooks are fun drivers. They compressed emotions down to one liners. The body love patterns and repeated fixtures. That's why crowds scream songs back like scriptures. DJ, electric thrills. My favorite song give me chills. In my skin, it mean I'm lit. For the song, it mean it. Also, I'm noticing God made dopamine. So I'm high, cause I'm focusing. Music is God and the go-between. A sentence is repentance. A verse to get your soul redeemed. The body hit a baseline first. Pain make the whole song work. You can feel it till it hurt. That's why the whole world replay the verse. Heartbeat move with the drums. Nervous
My bad. So anyway, your body takes matter, right? Photosynthesis. And here's where we go back to my beef, with the goofballs again in the holistic, the herbal salesman, running around like KT and some of these other guys, telling people that we do human photosynthesis, right? And the human photosynthesis thing is a way to, once again, it's a way to scientifically dumb down melanin once again. And we have to be vigilant like Jewish people. Jewish people are vigilant of their culture because, and they overreact, but it's understandable overreactions because their culture was discussed in a way, and then that led to atrocities. Like, we haven't got that in our mind yet. We have to start safeguarding how our culture is discussed and packaged before it leads to more, So no, I was very adamant and vocal from the beginning. Melanin doesn't do human photosynthesis. Most of these goofballs that you hear saying that don't even know where they're getting that from. They don't even know where that originated. They saw somebody else's video and they thought it looked good. Like Young Pharaoh watched my video when I had KT in my house. I was introducing KT, bring KT, one of them early KT videos, and KT was going in on it, and I was co-signing them. That's my man KT. So Pharaoh's stealing it. A bunch of other people. I'm saying, I don't mean to call out, whatever, but I'm just saying, like, a bunch of people, they weren't really doing the original research on that concept of human photosynthesis. They were just watching somebody that they thought was informed on the topic already and stealing the drip, right? That's the thing you should have learned in elementary school. Your mom, your dad, your dad or your older brothers or something, somebody that was supposed to school you, or maybe the neighborhood OG was supposed to school you. Like, yo, you got to be careful. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't got the answers for the test, you still might want to just go ahead and do your best, even if you don't feel confident when it's time to take a test, because you might look over and steal your homeboy answers and he know even less than you do, right? So give yourself a chance. You don't even know that the answers you copying is correct. So that blew up big time in the conscious community because you had a lot of people stealing answers. Everybody stealing answers. Nobody really doing research for themselves. So you get this concept of human photosynthesis floating around, and it's totally the opposite. And like literally, that's entendre. I mean, in terms of the community, but I also mean like scientifically, it's totally the opposite, right? The plant world does photosynthesis. Humans are photovoltaic, right? Most animals photovoltaic, right? That's how they're complementary, right? But here's the problem with atheist-led discussion. They have to omit a lot of science. Because here's where we get into irreducible complexity. And we went deeply into irreducible complexity in actually the only book that we have that's at Barnes and Nobles. So if you go to Barnes and Noble's website, we have an irreducible complexity. You need to get that book from Barnes and Noble. It's not on Amazon. It's the only book that's not on Amazon. It's only exclusively on Barnes and Nobles. We went into irreducible complexity. It's important to understand this concept of irreducible complexity because that is the fabric that your body is made out of. Space, time, the universe, all of it is made by systems developing simultaneously together. And emergent properties of these systems forming. And then to go deeper, emergent properties coming together and forming more emergent properties. So this is where you get a process going of things appearing in the universe where you can't see what the origin is. And so it looks magical, almost spooky in a way, like, oh, boom, this appeared by magic. No, it's called an emergent property, right? It's something not inherent in the individual parts, but when you put it together, now there's a new thing there, right? Emergent property. And we have emergent properties coming together, forming more emergent properties. So that's more property of energy than matter, right? Matter is more of a result. So it's hard to get all of the facts about something taking space in a whole different realm that you don't have a sensory, we don't have sensory input for things in that space, right? At least not that we have developed, right? We don't know how far our feelings go, right? Feeling and intuition is the space that so far we haven't reached the end of human development. But humans that have taken time to develop these other facets of, our sensory perception, there've been schools and this, so there's been a really high level of development in certain pockets and instances, but largely people are ignorant to these things and they're totally undeveloped. It's kind of what they're really showing you in like the movies, but they don't really have a way to articulate it. So what winds up happening is karate, right? But that's not what they're communicating. Like, so when you see, for instance, I'm just using this example, the Matrix, right? In the Matrix, it's supposed to be about this deep mental, spiritual experience, right? But how is that communicated to you? It's communicated to you by Neo learning from, my man, Fisher, I'm about to say Samuel Jackson. But, he's learning karate. And once he learns the karate, that means that he has achieved the spiritual enlightenment, blah, 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 because it's a movie. So you can't see mental development. Like, they can't show you mental development. The only way as a society that we've been able to demonstrate mental development to people is by showing physical development, which is a problem. Because we're using physical development as everything. That's the world we're in now. So this is why we have people doing what's called looks maxing and all the other crazy stuff, right? Injecting your face with blood, and it's wild out there. You know what I'm saying? Because of this, everything is based on physical. We've lost the understanding of what spiritual means. So we lost the understanding of what spiritual means. We don't have any concepts of spirituality that are meaningful. Even with respect to the religions, they don't really have anything meaningful. Like, not concrete. They have things, but the things are coded because they don't know what spirituality is. When they get inspiration and respiration, then everything else is snapped. The rituals that they have, they can blow the dust off and they begin to start making sense again. But till then, even masonry is kind of lost without the soul concept, the re-education of the masses on what the soul and the spirit is, right? That's why we have, I hope we don't have a storm or a tornado. That's going to be crazy. But that's why we're in a space where, chakra hustlers and all of those things can exist. Because people don't know what, or you can have, pastors go from, being illiterate and broke, and then, they got a private jet off, something with something crazy, like, you know what I'm saying? Or Brother Polite, you know what I'm saying? Or we get a Brother Polite story, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a precautionary tale that we might need to start discussing a little bit more often. You know what I'm saying? I think we went through shock, where we went through a period where we didn't discuss anything but polite till we went too far, maybe, got ourselves sick of it and haven't really discussed it since. But that's a precautionary tale that we need to discuss, because if we don't, and digest it, it's going to happen again. We'll get more polites. You know what I'm saying? We'll get another polite. We'll get more polites. You know what I'm saying? It's bad enough we got Umar. We don't really need any more Umar and Polite's the same. You know what I'm saying? We don't need any more. We already got Umar. You know what I'm saying? We still got Umar, so we don't need any more Polites. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, these are things that consciously we got to wrestle with. But anyway, keeping the main thing, right? So DNA 1960s code. They are killing. Can y'all hear that alarm? That's like the sound. We have an alarm for the shores. You know what I'm saying? So all of the boats know to bring their boats in off the shore if there's a potential storm. But the weather's so nice, it'd be crazy for us to have like a wild hurricane or a tornado. We do have that sometimes. Everywhere else we having nice weather, and we have the only hurricane in town. Yeah. That's the storm warning. That's the storm warning for people with boats and all that. You get your boat off the water before you wind up food for the sharks. So anyway, all of this is going into the process of eventually beginning to work and starting to bring this about. And so the book is like a miniaturization in the fact that we don't just bust out in the first book and say, okay, here's the picture. No, we're walking through and building the code or the understanding of the code together, right? So I took 1 hour to explain the disclaimer, right? 1 hour and 7 minutes to be exact. We've been discussing the disclaimer for this video. 1 hour disclaimer for this video. Okay. 1 hour disclaimer.
Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness melodic and passive. Uzi made sadness feel floating in magic. Big songs don't hit cause they lyrical only. They hit cause the brain get lonely. Simple hooks loop to the nervous system, know it. Ghosted the body singing for the mouth notice. That's dopamine science, electrical timing. Prediction and reward, the whole brain chiming. Every replay deep in pathways inside them. Now the song becomes your identity wiring. Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness melodic and passive.
Me feed you. Say let me feed you. Don't grab me. If you grab me, I'ma bite you.
All right, so here's where we expand it and go beyond, right? So remember I said we kind of use the model of microbiome, the virome, and the fungiome, right? And we expand out, right? So we get the photome, the electron, the mitochondriome, the epigenome, the proteome, the exerkines, feedback, and the hydrome, right? And we also, throughout the books, sometimes we use the term myrome, physiome, or ionome, right? To talk about these. And the other reason, or just to expound on what I already said, going back to the Russian dolls, I want to pull that out a little bit to make sure I really hit that point, because I know sometimes we got newer people with us. Understanding that nature works on scale, the Russian doll thing, right? That's a key to understanding the human body and to understanding the concept of music in terms of biology and biochemistry, or vibration creating consciousness, vibration creating living, right? The thing is, you got to understand that in one environment, they're completely unbeknownst to what's happening in the next environment. But every environment is dependent on another one, even though one is outer and then it's an in and then goes in and in and in. So we have our outer environment, right, which we talked about a lot in the Comedic Meteorology book. If you don't have the Comedic Meteorology book, you way behind. Life starts right there at the Comedic Meteorology book going forward. If you don't have the Comedic Meteorology book, drop everything, empty your cart, get that, refill your cart after that. Like, make sure you have that, right? Because that's the environment to the body, right? And that is our local star, the sun, to the environment, right? So that's another part to it. Once we discuss how much the environment controls the body, we actually have to talk about the intelligence driving the changes in the environment, which comes from or through the sun. So there's another conversation. Anyway, the idea of scale in biology, right? So scale in biology is this, right? Everything is dependent on something that is unaware of its dependence. We could sense it though, right? Depending on how developed our sensory, and if we want to subscribe to attributing that level of understanding to smaller space, which probably not, right? Because there's a portion or maybe total of consciousness that is emergent. It's an emergent phenomenon, right? So it may not be present at smaller scales, at least not in the same, to the same level, right? But so each thing is a whole different space, right? Meaning your tissues operate at a very small scale, right? Smaller than what your eyes can really see. So you know, in order to really understand the tissues, you've got to have equipment that will allow you to zoom in, right? And this is where convex lenses come back into play. You've got to be able to zoom in to see at a different scale. A convex lens allows you to see at a different scale, right? So you can see really far away and make it seem up close. And you can look at something really small and make it seem bigger, because big and up close are processed the same way. Far and small are processed the same way. So a convex lens is able to do both. It's able to make some far seem close and some small seem big, right? And so you get to the level of tissues. That's one level. That's a scale. But then you zoom in way smaller, which is further, right? And then you're at the cellular level, right? And then you zoom in again, way further. And I'm saying zoom in, I'm saying about going far, like traveling from Earth to the sun, right? But the sun might not be far. It might be that we're inside a space. Anyway, so tissues down to cells is really, 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 really far distance, or really, it's a lot smaller, right? So you have to zoom in a lot more. Then when you get into a cell, now when you're looking at the organelles, the things that's in a cell, like the nucleus or the mitochondria or whatever, the stuff floating around in the cell, that's way smaller than even the cell. So now you got to zoom in way further now. Then if you want to look at the things that's made out of, you got to zoom in. Like, for instance, it's one level, right? When you look at a cell, all right, boom, that's the cell. Now you got to zoom in hundreds, maybe thousands of times to find the mitochondria. Now that's the mitochondria. But if you want to see the electron transport chain inside the mitochondria, you got to zoom in thousands more times again, right? And then there's a limit where you can't even zoom in no more, right? When you want to get to individual atoms and even further than that, electrons and protons and all that, you can't even zoom. We can't even zoom that far. We have to infer, right? From movement, vibration, right? Again, back to movement and vibration. So all this stuff takes place at scales, right? So again, scale is one of the most important things when you understand in biology or biochemistry, right? It just so happens though, scale is what, right? Not fish scale, but what? A musical scale, right? So the same way we're dealing with this, just know also this same language that we're using to describe and understand biology is already the same language that we use to describe and understand music, right? We have to deal with scale, right? So one of the things that we're dealing with is we're working with the scale that's beyond the normal space, right? As we venture into the quantum space, we're dealing with just before the quantum space, right? So quantum space would be electrons, protons, light, magnetism, electricity, all of those things. The things that are just before we get into the quantum space would be things like, like ions, right? Because the ion is a thing. It's a tangible thing, right? It's at the atom level. It's at the scale of the atoms, right? But depending on how it's charged, right, it's going to create an electric field, and that's going to create a magnetic this, that, and then we're going down the rabbit hole of, the unseen phenomena that is driving most of our health. So anyway, hopefully we get it, right? And then exerkenes are a part of right here in the middle, exerkenes, right? We see a communication. Exerkenes are a part of what we were talking about, and we use a different name for them. But that was when we was in, I don't even know where the books are right now. But anyway, the Wascepter book. If you don't have the Wascepter book, go get the Wascepter book. But in the Wascepter book, we began really going into it deep in the Wascepter book. So get that if you don't have that. But we were talking about myokines, right? Now, exerkenes and myokines and all that, this is all like more, it's ways to categorize. I was about to say to be more specific or add specificity to the world of cytokines, right? So cytokines is like hormones, but cell to cell, right? So hormones is how like organs, like systems communicate. Cytokines are how cells directly communicate, right? And there's a huge variety of all kinds of cytokines. So they try to use better language to give you an idea of what they're talking about. But the word they use usually tells you what the origin of the thing is, right? Because you could be talking about one thing in this different places, right? So like, for instance, IL-6 is a cytokine that's very dangerous. It's a part of a bad trio of inflammatory markers, IL-1, IL-6, tumor necrosis factor, or TNF. Yeah, that's a nasty crew. But when muscles make IL-6, it helps the muscle because the muscle uses inflammation to grow, right? Hypertrophy and all that, tearing down the muscle is good to make the muscle grow in a certain way, right? So when they realized that the same molecule could be bad in one sense and good in another sense, it helped to add clarity to get where these things are being generated, right? So when IL-6 is generated anywhere in your body outside of skeletal muscle, it's an inflammatory marker. If it is generated in the skeletal muscle, it's not called the cytokine, it's now called a myokine. If it's generated because of like exercise, right? Then you get into like, so anyway, that's where the kenes come into play. Yeah, that's where the kenes come into play. Yeah. They got to go get that, man. If y'all don't have the Wascepter book, y'all bugging. All right, so let's get into this a little bit. Okay. So life is the structured flow of electrons initiated by light, sustained by breath, regulated through gene expression, and expressed as biological form. Electron flow to gradient, right? The gradient itself is coding, I want y'all to understand that. The electron flow itself is coding. So as we're going through this, I'm trying to be as specific as possible with like, because this is my Mona Lisa. It's my Mona Lisa. You know what I'm saying? The last half of 2025 was very difficult, and the first half of 2026 is proving itself to be very difficult for me. So it's in those time periods, though, that artists have their most renowned work is revealed to them in challenging times, right? So yeah, this is my Mona Lisa, though, the spirit code is. So, but anyway, just keep that in mind, that energy is also information, right? So even if you take it to the simplest level and you just understand that a pattern emerges, right? If we're talking about a flow of electrons, what is that flow? Is that flow in sets of 3? Is that flow in sets of 2 electrons? Is each individual electron moving at its own pace? Because because all those things create a stream of information, right? Yeah, it's like words. Cytokines are like words. And just like we got words that the mechanics use, words that the personal trainer uses, words the doctor uses. We got good words, we got bad words, right? MF, maricon, there's the same thing exists in the world of, like cellular words. You got good words and bad words, right? But that's all a new space with adiponectin and resistin and irisin and just all of those different, things that are becoming more popular. But just keep that in mind, though. Again, power is information. Knowledge is power. That's not really, knowledge is power is not just that's not just a thing that Black militants made up out of thin air. Like, that's actually scientifically fact. Like, that's fact. Knowledge is, power. Power is information, right? So you have electron flow to gradient to ATP to maintenance of gradient to continued flow. What is the flow? That flow is the thing that we do. The thing that we do is we turn matter back into energy. We turn matter back into energy. So the plants, they turn energy into matter. And then the animals, they turn matter into energy. That's how you have an irreducibly complex, perfect system. The plants are turning energy into matter, and the animals are turning that matter back into energy. So that the plants have more energy to do what? Make more matter. And then the animals, after they use the matter, they do what? They supply the plants with the raw material so that the plants can do what? Turn energy back into matter. Because the plants don't live on matter. They live on energy. So the plants need us to feed them their energy stuff. That's what they need from us. The plants take our energy stuff. And when I say energy stuff, I mean everything past where the human eye can see, right? So in this conversation, we're including the atom space, right? So they require that from us to turn back around, right? Wind is a form of energy, right? But they require that from us so that they could turn around and build up matter for us, give us complex compounds and molecules. Irreducibly complex system. We can't exist without them. They can't exist. They actually can't exist without us, but not at such level of complexity. The system fails, right? So to build complexity in the plant universe and in the animal universe requires both of us, right? New information is required to sustain these bodies, right? That we have, not just us, the plants too, the soil, everything. Everything is information based. Everything is requiring information. And as information gets strangled out of certain pockets, death is coming in. Information is the thing. The soil that's dead is a soil that's dumb. A body part that's dead is a body part that's dumb. So electron flow, gradient, ATP, maintenance of gradient, continued flow, right? Electrons are not necessarily flowing in a pineapple or a kale salad or a piece of chicken or a slice of beef, right? You've got to chew it up, digest it. You got to turn that matter back into energy so that the electrons can flow through your channels, right? Which would be the electron transport chain in your mitochondria, your channels that are designed to channel that energy, right? And recycle it into another form of energy that your body can use to animate its matter, right? So that is the thing that we have to remember with the thing with the universe is the relationship between energy and matter. That's where, I guess the Orient has a better advantage on the West because they don't really have this breaking period, right? Like Black folks, we got a breaking period. So globally, like we like the dumbest right now. White people, they're nowhere near as dumb as Black people right now because, they kind of know what they stole and when they left out and what they put in. But the large population, they're pretty dumb. They're like in the same boat with us. But you have some of the families in the upper echelons. They kind of know they have a longer view of history. And then you have the people in the East, like the Oriental folks. They haven't really got as intertwined in this whole Black folk, white folks thing. They had their thing. The Japanese and the Chinese and England got involved, and they got some nasty work over there too as well. But for the most part, the Africa and America thing, they really haven't, so their history on certain things is a lot longer and unbroken. They don't have blind spots that are either forced on them or that they have to pretend that they have because they have forced blind spots on another group of people, right? So if I force you to erase some of your history, I have to also pretend like I don't know it either. Because if I start telling it, then you got it back again, right? So I have to also pretend like I don't know these, so I have to give blind spots, and then I have to pretend I have blind spots in order for the blind spots to make, but Chinese folks, they don't really have that. You know what I'm saying? So they have a line of continuity in certain spaces throughout their history that we don't have as Americans because we're dealing with the same. White people too. White people don't know because they're part of the general population or they're part of the group, small group that has to pretend they don't know, which also makes them fundamentally handicapped as well. Where Chinese people don't operate from that space. They operate from a space of having a active, cohesive 2, 3, 4, 5,000, 10,000 year history to pull from. Whereas Black history is fragmented and European history is combative at best, right? Even if we exclude race contentions, white folks amongst themselves have been locked in combat, right? So they don't have any cohesive history to pull from, even amongst themselves, right? So that is one of the reasons why I was always interested in traditional Chinese medicine, right? Because they don't have the issues, whether it's, the American system, which relies on investment. And so investments create blind spots. In fact, investments are, it's not, you can't even use blind spots in the world of scientific grant money. It's the opposite. Everything, the whole world is blind. And when you get the grant, you get a little hole that you're allowed to look through. And anything that doesn't fit that hole, you throw out. So somebody with a grant in their laboratory doing research, they might discover like 100,000 things, but they might only be allowed to tell you about one. And the 99,999 beautiful, amazing things they discovered, they will never be able to reveal that to the people. So it's way worse than a blind spot. It's like everything becomes the blind spot and you get a little area you could see. Right. But yeah, so they have a cohesive history that you could tap into, healing certain global perspectives on things. Sometimes they win because of it. Sometimes they lose because of it in the Orient. But they take their bruises and their bumps. Like, this is our culture. Right. So like right now they're winning. They have won. Right. Right now they have won. Because, you know, the Oriental culture is an extension from North Africa, right? Right from that North Africa, that northeastern, that Egypt, you know, right from that pocket right there, you get Yellow River and then, you know, anyway. My thing is, old world, everything was gold. Since they never left their old world culture, they're now being rewarded from sticking with their old world culture. Now that globally gold has went up, that literally means Chinese, their collective culture is worth more money because a part of their collective culture is gold and jade. So whereas they have those things and they really like treat them a part of their culture, they have those things on hand. So when the world views them as $2, they got them on hand because it's a part of their culture. Whether it's valuable to anybody else, it's valuable to them. When the world says that those things that was $2 a pound is now worth $1 million an ounce, they still have loads of it laying around because it's a part of their culture. You know what I'm saying? Their culture gains and loses value as gold does because they've tied their culture to it. Just like in Kemet, the original, you know, the original place where you see, you know, the pharaohs literally coated. They have their mummies or their sarcophagi, you know, done in gold for a purpose. And that even symbolizes the unification between energy and matter, or what our ancestors would say, flesh and spirit. What science says would define structure constant, the number 1/137, right? That number connects the energy to matter, right? So anyway, it also is, that number is responsible for cycling ATP and electron movement and all that. So anyway, so this is where we at with this understanding, right? Now, obviously, the idea is that moment, that spot, right? That's that sweet spot, right? That was the main thing for me over time, was to figure out, where does that happen? I know y'all like, what are you talking about? What sweet spot? What are you talking about, God? I'm telling you. The sweet spot is so the sweet spot is, where is it? Like exactly right in here, where does energy become matter? Right? Because starting in the early 1900s, when we discovered B vitamins and all that, and nature starts to teach us about energy or spirit, right? That's when we start learning about how our body turns matter into energy, right? That's digestion and metabolism, right? We take matter, a cupcake, a kale salad, a smoothie, right? And we turn it into pure energy, right? Electrons and protons that then are turned back into matter briefly, right? Right? Because we use that to recycle ATP, but we cycle it back into a water molecule. Right? We cycle it back into electrons and protons back into a water molecule. We get this process, right? I think more people were more focused on this, right? Over at least definitely the last 60 years, right? From the 1950s to now. What is that? 70? That's more. Yeah, like 70, 80 years, right? Digestion, metabolism, right? But the energy to matter part, see, our ancestors was more concerned with that. How does the unseen become the seen? And how does the unseen that gives us rocks, things that are so simple, how does that unseen not only become seen, but how does that seen become so complex that it's me? You know what I'm saying? Or my wife or my whatever. How is it that I'm having these thoughts? Is the rock having these thoughts, or the rocks doesn't have these thoughts? So if the rocks aren't able to have these thoughts like me, what level of complexity is required in the natural construction of matter or stuff until this level of thought emerges, or consciousness or whatever? And you look at other animals and you see the consciousness is not there exactly at the same level, but there, different degrees, right? So we have this where I feel like we just haven't put the study into it, because energy to matter has always been considered theology. It's been theology or the geniuses. Only geniuses and religious people are allowed to think about how energy becomes matter. It's like the governments of the world got together and they removed that from the collective consciousness. They don't want anybody thinking about how energy becomes matter. You could spend all day thinking about how matter becomes energy. You could buy products to help you when it doesn't work, like X-Lax or, Mylanta, whatever, right? But not energy to matter, right? Energy to matter, you need to be a quantum physicist, or you need to be a pastor or theologian, right? But this is the exact space that we need to be in. This should be the main thing. This is the main thing we need to think about, right? Because this even determines what real food is, right? Real food is about this. When energy makes matter, energy doesn't disappear. Energy becomes more dense. So the purpose of energy becoming matter and then us breaking the matter down in the way that we do is to release the energy, which is also the information. Processed food has no information in it. It's static. So we have to understand this process of how energy is built into matter so that we can understand how the information is created, right? If we want to go back, right, get the book Plant Genetics, right? We go in detail in plant genetics. How is it that the different plants have different compounds in it, right? How is it that if you go in the backyard right now, you got all different plants in your backyard, right? If you got a backyard, if you're in the projects right by the side of the park, you probably got some grass with a few different plants in there. Visualize it. How is it that all those plants, the roots is in the same soil? When a dog doodle right there, it's going on the same plants, right? When a drunk person pee right there, it's going on. All right, my bad. We going too far. I went too far. You get the picture, right? How is it that the plants are growing in the same soil, getting the same food, same water, same sunlight, but yet they produce different compounds, different poisons, different nutrients, different amounts of vitamins, and all those different things? What is happening, right? What is happening at the energy level that is different in this process of energy, right? Because the plants is all absorbing the same water and nutrients, right? From the soil and the light and all that. But then somehow the way it's putting them together is forming different molecules and compounds. That's based on that coding that's somewhere in there. That coding is somewhere in there, right? The coding starts with how the energy is what? Go back to your Black's Anatomy book. See, now today you need this to make sense. Now you should have been see, I haven't been off. I just haven't been live. I haven't been off. I still been on the grind. So now, come on. Where's your Black's Anatomy books? Right? When we talked about quantum field theory, and we talked about how the quantum field theory came from the Kemetic version. Right? The energy, the information is coming from the thing that imparts structure and order on the pure energy, right? So pure energy must be confined. However, pure energy is confined or constrained, that order, right? That confinement, that compression, that's a word that makes sense for more people. That compression creates data, right? Which is also where your ancestors got into sacred geometry, which later on developed into a much larger system that today we still call masonry, where shape was one of the fundamental ways that you understood the development of the universe, right? It's still, science still works that way. Don't let nobody mislead you, right? Because energy has to be compressed. That's why you have energy, then mass, then matter, right? And then you go backwards. Matter, mass, right? Mass can calculate. Mass is where we can calculate the potential energy in matter, right? Or the potentiation of energy to condense into matter if we're going in the other direction, right? So order, right? Order, ma'at, right? Ma'at at the beginning of the universe, ma'at, right? So order creates information out of the energy, right? So it's not separate from the energy. It's the organization of the energy creates the information, right? That is also a part of what becomes matter. That organization to the energy part, that is the part that's in your apple, that's not in your, I don't know, something delicious. Think of whatever you think of that's delicious that comes in a plastic wrapper. Whatever you can think of that you think is delicious that comes in a plastic wrapper. That's the difference of it. That thing right there. Right? Think, what's my man name? Test tube baby. Test tube baby. You a test tube baby. Think test tube baby. You a test tube baby. Even if you're not a test tube baby, in essence, you're a test tube baby. Why? Because a test tube baby is a human that's created outside of the natural process, right? A test tube baby is not made by a man and a woman, by a penis and a vagina. A test tube baby is made by it's in a glass tube with needles and all that. So the formulation of life comes in a bowl from a metal. It's not the same as two people, right? So there's an incalculable potential loss there that hasn't been quantified yet. Whereas here, it's much more easier for us to understand what's being lost in the process, right? But when it comes to your body, this same process is still at work. This same process is still at work. The environment is the thing putting constraint on you as the living light, the living information, right? The environment puts constraints on you. And those constraints that the environment puts on you determines your lifestyle, right? And diet, right? Because a lot of this is coping mechanisms, right? For the environment. So we put environment here, right? We put environment here. We take energy out, right? And we put you, right? We put you there. So we got environment, you, lifestyle and diet, and then we got how your body develops, right? When we go back to the 50 billion or trillion, whatever that crazy number of cells that your body has to turn over every day in order to constantly create and recreate and heal and rebuild your body, right? It's doing that from this pure energy source. Remember, when your body breaks down the atoms to get the electrons and protons to run through the electron transport chain, not only are you recycling ATP, but your body is also using that same process to make all of your non-essential amino acids. So when I say it's making the matter, in a very real sense, your processing of energy is creating the matter, right? So that's actually true on that, like to that extent, right? So even when you're breaking the food down to produce your energy, you're using that process, the breaking it down. You're taking all that raw material, right? The waste products of those reactions, and you're using the waste products from those chemical reactions now to create all of your non-essential amino acids. So the waste products of getting energy is the building blocks of your non-essential amino acids, which then become, to take it a step further, now what? You now produce all of your protein structures, which more than 90% of your body's protein structures are what? Piezoelectric material. So think about this process. You turn energy into matter. Your body requires energy to animate the matter. But the matter itself, being that it's mostly piezoelectric material, also produces energy itself. Literally, the matter produces energy. All of the piezoelectric collagen in your body, all the bones, all your DNA, any of it that you put energy on, it automatically produces its own code of that, an electric code. It spits that right out. The same thing happens at an atom level, because again, remember I said the qualities of atoms, when they become compounds and molecules, it's not lost, it's just added into the fold. So the original quality of an atom to do what? Absorb a photon and release an electron. We see that played out in piezoelectric material by the piezoelectric material being able to absorb sound or pressure waves and convert that into electric. It's not exactly the same as a pigment. A pigment now is the opposite to a piezoelectric material, right? A pigment is more photovoltaic, well, not more photovoltaic, it's photovoltaic. That's going to take light, like an atom, absorbs a photon, creates electricity. That's what pigment do on a larger scale. Pigments develop like an enzyme. An enzyme is to speed up chemical reaction. Pigment is developed to speed up conversion of light, different types of light, different types of information. So pigments are usually light specific or wavelength specific, right? Wavelength specific. All right, we trying to do something, man. We trying to do something. Shout out to Hard One, man. Shout out to Hard One setting this thing off. We trying to do something, man. Man, We got Peyton coming in. Peyton coming in with a little list. Listen, I appreciate y'all trying to get this thing set off the right way, man. Yeah, you know what? We probably need to celebrate these super chats, man.
Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness melodic and passive. Uzi made sadness feel floating in magic. Big songs don't hit cause they lyrical only. They hit cause the brain get lonely. Simple hooks loop to the nervous system, know it. Ghosted the body singing for the mouth notice. That's dopamine science, electrical timing. Prediction and reward, the whole brain chiming. Every replay deep in pathways inside them. Now the song becomes your identity wiring. Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness melodic and passive. Uzi made sadness feel floating in magic. The greatest hooks are fun. They compressed emotions down to one-liners. The body love patterns and repeated fixtures. That's why crowds scream songs back like scriptures. DJ, electric grills. My favorite song give me chills. In my skin and me numbly. For the song and me also, I'm noticing God made dopamine. So I'm high cause I'm focusing. Music is God in the go between a sentence and repentance. A verse against your soul redeemed. The body hit a baseline first. Pain make the whole song work. Look the feeling till it hurt. That's why the whole world replayed the verse.
Alright, okay. I got a little carried away with this. Yeah. My bad. My bad with the sing along. Woo, nigga. You have no idea. Because in my neighborhood, like right now, I'm in the like where my office is, like the front of the house, and I got my window open. So as like distinguished elderly white folks like walking by, you gotta imagine when they catch these sound bites, because they just walking right by. At any moment, they might. Hey, I'm telling you, man. The song is on the album. Peyton said I might get rowdy if I don't get the song name. Okay, hold on. I know the song name, but I'd rather show you the song name. That way people, you know what I mean? Because it might not be like more people that's thinking the same thing. So I think most people is using Spotify. So we can just go to Spotify. When you go to Spotify, everybody, I'm just giving an example for everybody. And I'm probably the only person that just learned about Spotify. I'm breaking it down like I know something. Listen, anyway, so when you go to Spotify, okay, you want to click right here on where it says the artist name, Dr. Pepper and the Beatles, and then stroll all the way down, and that's going to give you all the albums, the discography, right? So you right here. I think it's on Himothy. Yeah. It's on Himothy. So right here, it's the name of the song. It's called the How to Make a Song song. And then in parentheses, I got call, because there's a part 2 of the song all the way down here, which is the response. So you have a call and response. So you got part 2 of the song right here too. So it's actually 2 parts to the song. But it's on the new album. It's on the Himothy album. the Himothy album. Dr. Kepper is Himothy. You know what I'm saying? Dr. Kepper is starring in the album as Himothy.
Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness melodic and passive. Uzi made sadness feel floating in magic. Big songs don't hit cause they lyrical only. They hit cause the brain get lonely. Simple hooks loop to the nervous system, know it. Ghosted the body singing for the mouth notice. That's dopamine science, electrical timing. Prediction and reward, the whole brain chiming. Every replay deep in pathways inside them. Now the song becomes your identity wiring. Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness melodic and passive. Uzi made sadness feel floating in magic. The greatest hooks are fun drivers. They compress the emotions down to one-liners. The body love patterns and repeated fixtures. That's why crowds scream songs back like scriptures. DJ, electric thrills. My favorite song give me chills. In my skin, it mean I'm lit. For the song, it mean a hit. Also, I'm noticing God made dopamine. So I'm high, cause I'm focusing. Music is God and a go-between. A sentence is repentance. A verse to get your soul redeemed. The body hit a baseline first.
Yeah. Yo, man. Albums is tough, man. It's some work. There's some heat on these albums. You know what I'm saying? There's some heat on these albums. I think people are underestimating them because we have a thing towards, like, you know, people like, oh, EnQi be using AI. You know, EnQi, I've been writing songs since I was like 4 or 5 years old, though. Literally, I've been writing songs more than I've been writing songs longer than I've been writing anything else. I've been writing songs longer than writing books. Writing a song is easier than writing a book for me. Way easier. A book is like a zillion songs. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Peyton, you was totally, see, Peyton, you getting ready to get fired as the A&R. You missed the album. We went through the album yesterday. Yeah, I think we was on for like an hour or 90 minutes, and we kind of went through the whole album, all the different songs. The Himothy album is crazy. Himothy album is crazy. I don't know. So far, my favorite album though is The Secret Teaching of Music. So far, my favorite is The Secret Teaching of Music, but I feel like Himothy is probably going. I'll probably jump into that. But the people, let me say this: the people are. Oh, let me give an update on the game, okay? Because we came up with a game yesterday, and we're gonna have to switch it up. So the game is off. The game is not going yet. The game is off. All right. Everybody's picks is reset. So Kyle, Paul, if y'all listening, your pick is reset. It doesn't count whatever you picked yesterday. I didn't know what I was talking about. Just like I said a little while ago. Like I know what I'm talking about when it comes to live. So I didn't know what I was talking about. So I actually do have the ability to see the individual song numbers of Spotify. Remember when we came up with it, I said we're only going to count Apple because Apple is the only thing that I'm able to see. So the way DistroKid sets up your thing is you get to see Apple inside there. In order to see Spotify, I got to click a link that's in like some drop down menus and click this and that. And then there's a link and it circles you to the back of Spotify where you can see like your songs and all that. And there's already a song that's way past 100 plays. It's already past 200 plays. And I ain't gonna hold you. Hold on, Kyle. Don't you get too happy there, buddy, because guess what? I feel like I should keep y'all picks what y'all picks was, only because I feel like I owe y'all some spitefulness, especially you and Paul. I feel like it's disrespectful in hindsight, only in hindsight. At the time, I was caught up in the music, probably just like you and Paul. But in hindsight, I was like, yo, Paul and Kyle is mad disrespectful. How did they not know? Maybe I was being disrespectful, even by thinking of a game. I should have. Maybe I'm the most disrespectful because I should have knew better. If y'all didn't know better, I should have definitely knew better. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Because we should have knew better. For y'all at home that didn't see the show yesterday, here's what we came up with, because we want people to listen to the music more, right? So the idea was we're going to do it like a horse racing, you know what I'm saying? Where we pick your song, you pick your song, your favorite song, or whatever song you think is going to be the first song to reach 100 listens. And whenever that song reaches 100 listens, I'm going to announce the winner, and that person will get like a free sea moss or a bottle of herbs or something to that effect, right? And we was going to do it like at 100, then at 1,000, then at whatever, you know what I'm saying? And so we started doing it, having fun. We going through the songs, whatever. Nobody even mentioned this. Now watch this. It's crazy disrespectful. Watch this. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me find that same Spotify again. Okay. Let me go back onto that same Spotify. Look at this. This is what I'm saying. We slept. And it's disrespectful to sleep, but it's even more disrespectful when you sleep on yourself. Look at this. This is what we didn't think of. Now, what's the first album that came out? Desire in Christ. On the Desire in Christ album, all the way down, snuggled right in here at the bottom, we didn't think about it. We didn't factor this in. We should have factored this in. This song got way more spins than every other song. In fact, it ruins the contest because this song is already way into the hundreds. That song is going up, getting close to 300. That song got close to 300 spins, and the other ones ain't even close to 100 yet. So that song is already go. So that's why I'm saying it's disrespectful, because somebody should have picked the Beatles. How nobody picked the Beatles as the song that was going to reach 100 first? Come on. We should have all knew the Beatles was going to go. Soon as we put it, if for no other reason, because we like it so much, we should have knew that song. Like, but nobody picked it. Everybody picked a different song as going to be the first one to reach 100. And when I got into the Spotify, the first thing I seen was the Beatles. I guess because that name, the Beatles in Stillness, the Beatles in Stillness was the original name of my original file before I switched it. I just shortened it down like to the Beatles, the single. So people probably don't know what that is, but that song, right, that's the Beatles song. The Beatles in Black Stillness on this Desire in Christ CD. I don't know if y'all can hear that. Can y'all hear that?
Rolling through the sand like a thought in disguise.
Bro.
Scarab spins truth where the cosmos collide. Energy.
Could y'all hear that right now just then when I played it? Because I'm not sure everybody know what we're talking about, but I'm sure everybody that watched this channel knows that song already by now. Oh, okay, good. So that song was on the first joint. So not only does it have the advantage of being on the first album uploaded, but it's, come on. So that song right there officially ruined the whole contest. That song ruined the whole contest. So we are going to do the contest though. But I actually have to sit down and look at some stuff, look at the numbers, just to make some notes and adjustments, and then come back and make sure that it's, you know what I'm saying? Because even now it's so far ahead that I can't say, okay, well, first to 1,000, and then that song is at 1,000 next week or in a couple of weeks, and the other songs is just getting to 100. You know what I'm saying? That's not gonna be at 1,000. The other song, anyway. So that's all I'm saying. Like, nah, but all those songs that you talking about, Peyton, those is on Himothy. All those is on Himothy. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta look at where all the numbers is and try to make it even for the first horse race. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, yeah, we're probably gonna have to just wind up settling on pulling the Beatles song out of the contest because it's too much. And as more people figure out what that name means, I think more people gonna start listening to it. You know what I'm saying? So that song single-handedly, because I was like, oh, what is this? Because all my stuff is like in the single digits and double digits. I don't have nothing in the 3 digits. And I scrolled down and I seen that. Like, oh, this is crazy. Yeah, contest is over. This song almost at 300. So anyway, all right. We off that. Everybody, we need people to listen to the music. Spotify, Amazon. Remember what the blueprint is. Books are the food, the songs are the vitamins. On the songs, it's a level of difficulty going from 0 to a 10, meaning when it comes to the science, right? So all of the songs, the science is obviously watered down and made more simplified, right? But some of them is to where it don't sound like it's barely any science in there, right? You might not even consider it science. It might be dumbed all the way down to where it's just some common sense stuff about brotherhood or sisterhood or, just, that level of positivity, you know what I'm saying? Where it's not mitochondria and DNA, just, us, right? All the way up to some songs where I know like 1 or 2 songs where it's just like genes. I'm just going through different genome, functional genomics, to go back to what I was saying earlier about the early classes you could have signed up for, how they so expensive now. It's functional genomics, right? People are trying to get certified in functional genomics are paying 10, 20, 30,000, or they having to go to college for it. But I have songs that's written where it just, you don't even know what I'm saying because it sound like 81RB 138 modifies, it sound almost robotic, you know what I'm saying? So just for every level of nerd, the songs work. You know what I'm saying? Now, sometimes it might be too nerdy for you. That's when we done went too high on the nerdometer. The nerdometer, we done went too high for you. But for the public, there's a wide scale of nerdometer. So some people, they good right at melanin, alkaline, whoop. They done maxed out on intelligence for the day. That's, they done got, whoop. Some folks, they want to know what is melanin made out of. So they need a higher level of science. They want to know how do we get to alkaline? What is alkaline? 7.365. What generates the 7? What? Oh, gases collect. How are the gases? Where are we generating gases? How do we? Higher level of science. So, we got different levels of nerdology all throughout the music to make the books easier to, so it's fun. It's fun. Anyway, so let's get back to work though. Right? So what we're on, right? Because now I got to work on the birthday. I got to work on my birthday album. Yeah, like I got to stop putting out music, and I got to put out my birthday. Like I got to put that together. You know what I'm saying? So I did the first couple of songs for my birthday this morning. Yeah. Like the first couple of songs for my birthday. You know what I'm saying? So June 29th, I'm going to release it. So that way, June 30th, I'll have it. No messing around. I'm going to do it the day before. Release the album on June 29th. So that way, on my birthday, I could play it. Or maybe I'm going to check the calendar and see when the weekend is. I'm going to try to have it out for that weekend. Whatever that weekend is before my birthday, I'm going to try to put an album out. That'll be my birthday, whatever. Yeah, the nerdometer, bro. Come on, man. We still want the thugging, though. That's the thing. We still want the thugging. We don't want the music to sound like you know what I mean? We still want it to be strong and sexy and all that. We just want a little bit of, you know what I mean? Throw a little comedic, a little splash of Osiris and a little splash of electron, quantum. You know what I'm saying? We just want to minus the kilo and insert the CMOS. That's it. We still want the same music, kind of. You know what I'm saying? So we got to try to satisfy ourselves. So we making our own music industry. That's what we done did. We have more songs than everybody. There's nobody that has more music than Dr. Kepper and the Beatles. Dr. Kepper and the Beatles has more music than Jay-Z and Drake put together. We have thousands of songs. Obviously, we can't just put thousands of songs out, but we have thousands of songs already. Thousands. Yeah, we have thousands of songs. You know what I'm saying? But I think like the 26th, look out for the 26th or whatever that weekend is. The 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, something around there. You know what I'm saying? Dr. Kepper and the Beatles going to put out something for Rich Abs and Dr. EnQi. We got our characters, you know what I'm saying? So they'll put out something for the birthday weekend. All right. So here's another part to this, though, with the music. Right? Here's another part to the music. Right? And this is the thing that's also important. Because we're getting down the wire. We're 2 hours in. I know some people's attention span is going. So we're getting down the wire. Here's the thing that I want y'all to understand. Right? When we deal with scale, right, we deal with octaves. Right? And we talked about where octave came from, the word, from the Romans. Right? And before the Romans, it was the Greek ogdo. Before the Greek ogdo, it was kamenu. Right? So with octaves, you got to realize it's the same thing, right? With octaves, you're dealing with scale. And the way things at different scale interact with each other is through vibration, right? It's through vibration. Music, right? We're back to our music premises. We're back to our vibration, our sound principle, right? And even though I said everything centers on Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, there's also an aspect where you have to keep in mind, this harkens back to the earliest chapter. This harkens back to Kemet. This harkens back to even some other sources that began our universe with sound as opposed to light. Right? And the light actually being created via sound, right? Which, of course, is my last studio album, Dr. EnQi, Sound Becomes Light, right? Also available on all the music platforms. Some people are looking for Dr. Kepper and the Beatles music, but they're not typing in Dr. Kepper and the Beatles. They're going on Spotify typing in Dr. EnQi, so they're not seeing nothing but the old album. Stop typing in Dr. EnQi and type in Dr. Kepper. You'll find the new music. Anyway, when we talked about the scale thing, remember we laid out the different size, like tissue, cell, organelle, then components of organelles, then you get into atoms, and then you get into electrons, protons, right? The way the different scales interact is movement. It's vibration, right? When we're talking about nutrition, right, a lot of times we'll get into conversation about mineral, right? Minimal Minerals largely function by their oxidation state, their charge value, right? And that's because when you have an ion move, that ion is going to create an electric field. That electric field is going to create a magnetic field, and so on and so forth. And we're off and running into the unseen world. That's just totally discounted in popular discussion. In popular discussion, you don't go that far, right? In more small circles, you go that far. You go as far as electrostatics and beyond, right? Because there's no other way to make sense of it, right? So we talk about electrostatics and beyond, obviously, throughout the code, right? But just to understand that the thing that all the different scale variations of the same system, right? Or if you want to have the conversation, because the New Age people are having the same conversation, right? The New Age people are going to talk about fractal symmetry, right? And so you have those guys over there, Dan Winters and what's the other white guy? Greg Braden and all them guys. You got all that over there, right? But it's really just they're rewording, they're repackaging science to Scammy Davis. They got their own Scammy Davis Jr. stuff going on, but they're repackaging science. And so they'll use terms like fractal symmetry to talk about this phenomenon that exists at all scales of life, right? So fractal symmetry is to talk about this, right? Because there's a transference of energy between like, right? That happens. And at various scales, they try to understand it. When you get to the finest scale, you get to stuff like spooky action at a distance and quantum entanglement, some of these other things that's still being, figured out, right? Which all are still going on in compounds, molecules, and more complex bodies, right? So a particle that is quantumly entangled with another particle, just because that particle becomes a part of a sugar molecule doesn't mean it's no longer entangled and sharing information somewhere else or receiving information from somewhere else. It just means that that information is now a part of that sugar. And when you consume that sugar and break that down, hopefully that information transferred to you, if that's a natural sugar or not, right? It's all a part of, right, this whole thing. But anyway, my thing is the different scales function via vibration, right? Movement, right? Movement. That's why, at the base of biochemistry is what? Enzymes. What does an enzyme do? Nothing. It shakes. They're shaking. An enzyme ain't doing nothing. It's just like that. All an enzyme do is like permanently in a movement. It's in a perpetual motion that creates a very specific reaction. In music, you would say a very specific note, right? You hit this up against this. So every time you hit this in the exact same space on this, you create the same sound. With chemical reactions, when you hit the same chemicals together in the same environment, you create the same reaction, same note, right? When a photon is absorbed and re-released by an atom, no matter what the conditions are, the atom will always release the photon in the same way, which creates an identity for atom. Piezoelectric material, when they're stimulated, they're always going to produce a code according to the stimulation, right? So this is where communication happens, right? Because there's always a code, because there's always movement, right? And movement is a constraining thing. That transition from potential energy to kinetic energy creates information, right? That information is constantly shared and rerouted from the smallest places in every cell to the largest tissues in the body. That's how everything stays in concert, right? Did you hear what I just said? What I just said. That's how everything stays in concert. Everything stays in concert. Get it? See, this is what I'm saying. And y'all still asking me, you know what I'm saying? Like y'all still asking me certain things, and I'm like, I'm confused, right? Because when HJ asked me, right, when Hotep Jesus asked me to take the music off my YouTube page, the writing should have been on the wall. Y'all should have saw in that moment, right, the ultimate level of maturity and restraint of me. See, I can't control y'all at home, right? I can't control y'all. I don't know how y'all think about this information. I don't even know who's who. If you don't announce yourself in the chat, I don't know what the numbers is, right? I know on average about 300 to 500 people see a video of ours. I don't know who those people are. I may know about 10 to 20 of those people. I don't know who the rest of those people are. I don't know. And of the people I know, I don't know how many videos y'all are catching. I don't know if y'all catch every video, every other video. I don't know if when y'all read the book, y'all really believe. I don't know if y'all are doing the prayer. I don't know if y'all take this stuff serious. I don't know if y'all following. Right now, y'all can have a can of beer with loose Newport cigarettes. Just y'all like the entertainment part of this. It's intelligent entertainment, but you don't take it serious. It's just entertainment. So I get it for you. But I've been telling y'all that for me, I'm the God is music guy, right? So just put yourself into my shoes for a second. I'm the God is music guy. If for nobody else, God is music for me. Think about that. So if somebody asks me to take music off my YouTube page, you know what you're asking me? You know how my mind interpret that question? My mind here is take God off your page because God is music. So you ask me to take music off my page. You asking me to take my expression of God off my YouTube page. The side eye got to be like an upside down side eye, like Lucifer, son of the morning, I'm gonna chase you out of here. How dare you ask me to take the music? You ask the guy that is teaching other people that God is music to take music off his. Anyway, okay, you know what? Y'all don't get it. It's my own thing. I'm the only guy. Y'all ain't taking this serious.
Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness melodic and passive. Uzi made sadness feel floating in magic. Big songs don't hit cause they lyrical only. They hit cause the brain get lonely. Simple hooks loop to the nervous system know it. Ghosted the body singing for the mouth notice. That's dopamine science, electrical timing. Prediction and reward, the whole brain chiming. Every replay deep in pathways inside them. Now the song becomes your identity wiring. Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness melodic and passive. Uzi made sadness feel floating in magic. The greatest hooks are fun drivers. They compressed emotions down to one-liners. The body love patterns and repeated fixtures. That's why crowds scream songs back like scriptures. DJ, electric grills. My favorite song give me chills. In my skin, it mean I'm lit. For the song, it mean a hit. Also, I'm noticing God made dopamine. So I'm high, cause I'm focusing. Music is God and the go-between. A sentence is repentance. A verse to get your soul redeemed. The body hit a baseline first. Pain make the whole song work. The feeling till it hurt. That's why the whole world cage, chest starts shaking. Low frequencies literally move sensation. Heart sync rhythm do entrainment. Now the whole crowd breathing in synchronization. That's why arenas cross the spiritual fine line. 10,000 nervous systems on one timeline. One hook, one tempo, one guide. Music turns separate bodies to one hive. The best songs leave room in the production space. Let the listener emotionally function. Too many sounds create mental disruption, but emptiness let imagination touch it. Reverb make memories more like tuning. Vocal signatures, emotions are human. Distortion make the pain feel vivid. Imperfection make the nervous system live it. Cause the body detect life through texture, not robotic perfection and pressure. Breath sound, strain, slurs and gesture. Architect music, measure pleasure forever. DJ electric grills, my favorite song, give me chills. My skin, it mean I'm lit. For that song, give me a hit. Also, I'm up to sing. God made dopamine, so I'm high, cause I'm focusing. Music is God in a go-between. A sentence is repentance, a verse to get your soul redeemed. Savage made dark, feel cinematic. Fake made pain, sound smooth and attractive. But the host made loneliness, melodic and passive. Blue magic. I'm getting dehydrated. Music is traveling waves in God form. Music is traveling waves in God form. Music is traveling waves in God form. DNA singing since the day we born. Heartbeat, drums, electric storm. Every living cell got a sacred song. It goes on and on and on and on. Now this time, you don't get the fake. Wiggle, bounce, twist your face. You don't get the fake. Move your waist. In the beginning was the waviest. Now we get taught God by atheists. I pray for this, even though I think this is the craziest. Learning about God from atheists. Your fatty ass is the shakiest. Your fatty ass is crazy thick. Kings dance when the bass line hits. CREs turn on from the wave like this. Whole body electric, can't explain like this. Music ain't entertainment, life itself is it. Music is traveling waves in God form. Music is music is traveling waves in God form. Everything rhythm from the lungs to the blood. Heart got tempo, brain got buzz. DNA twisted like a vinyl club. Whole human body got frequencies plugged. Cells communicate through ions in charge. Electrostatic forces telling proteins where to start. Scary switches, listening deep in the dark. Environment shaping how the genes play their part. Motion ripple in the fabric. Euless digits spinning fast. Powers doubling, cell bubble DNA gon' make it last. Hexagons in the tissue, packed tight, no gaps in the map. Square root of 3 on my sleeve. Geometry in a crowd. Got proportions in the mirror. Golden spirals in my face. Coding's coding in a sequence. Seeming cycle keep the pace. Fine tuning in the cosmos. Hear the violence cascade. Universe sounds like a choir. Every wave of him replayed. You doing too much. Atheist, you must be stupid. Bitter shots on me. Bitter shots on me. Finer anatomy. Crust baked in the bone. 6-foot codons in the script, human genome. I spit Fibonacci bar spiral like a dome. Feminine sequence, but you think it's random tone. Hands fold like crackles, press crackle through the strings. Faith of frequency, it sings. Echoes dancing angel wings. Chaos patterns in the dirt. Even storms got their rings. Got a maestro watching, pluck the harp and everything. You doing too much. Ain't easy, you must be stupid. Bitter shots on me. Bitter shots on me. Bitter shots on me. Bitter shots on me. Bitter shots on me.
These recipes all look crazy.
Yeah, and I'm definitely grateful to collab with Ink. Like he's been, sort of like a silent mentor, kind of like, guiding me through a lot of these different processes, and me reaching out to him. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? So that's just a testament to a lot of information that I gathered from him and other people.
Lamar, don't take my word for it. Stalin, Society Baby, Dead Stop, Madman, Jeremiah. Thanks to the whole chat.
It's not just kitchen chemistry. You gotta add chemistry in the kitchen. And well cooking. Yeah. Osborne, Osborne, Politic, Kev, Brian, Amber, on your speaker. Peyton, Andrew, you know the life. Kyle D, Lord be snipes on Christ. Nobody else is this nice. So good, it's on board. survive. So good it's almost a vibe. So good it's almost a vibe. Up in nights like nobody else, right in the fear, look, Paul top shelf. It's nothing new, you can tell me. I live off love, shout out to LV. I believe in God, it's really natchez. 20 years later, we're Philly natchez. 100 packs popping, studying detoxing. Live V on YouTube, new books dropping. We yelling, add your game, 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 add your game.